first signed with Coursera, and we've released the first MOOC in the fall of 2012. So I think with Edinburgh, we're probably the first one that had in Europe put a MOOC online. And in February, we had the nice visits of the EDX management, and Anant Agarwal and his colleagues came, and we also signed an agreement with the EDX. We also created in the spring of 2013 our Center for Digital Education that is headed by Pierre and what he calls the MOOC Factory. In the fall, we have 10 new MOOC running, and we have registered, but I'll come back to this. I think one of the problems is when we talk about registration, because you have an inflation of numbers. Those are great, but then you go back and then you could see this dropout rate, which is quite significant. Now, in the spring of 2014, we have 10 running courses in parallel, 7 new. But I think the key one was really this gentleman, Professor Marta Oderski. He's the father of a key programming language called Scala. So he put this on September 18th. And yesterday, we had no clue. We just tested the program and just put it on Coursera. And he had 50,000 students registered online. So, of course, everybody's happy to say, yeah, it might work. But the most interesting, he had 10,000 students that took the final exam. So I guess still in Coursera, it's one of the very high retention at 20%. So for me, that was kind of an interesting first. But we wanted to know, what are those students? In fact, it's probably due to the course itself, but I think it's a beautiful example of something that we have a hard time to do, which is continuous or professional education. So you could see in this course, the majority of the students had already a university degree. Those are with PhD, master's, or bachelor. So you could see the undergrads are certainly not very present. In fact, he ran the course in parallel to his students, and the grades of the students online were about the same as the one on campus. You say, gee, 10,000 students that are as good as our 60 students. But explain, this was a second-year course, then they were competing to some extent with people that had already a university degree. So I think, for me, this is the first very interesting thing, and I'll come back to it. I think for continuous education, MOOC is probably an outstanding tool. This is the current situation. So we have produced 21 courses. 13 are in the pipeline being produced. We run 17 online. 4 are tested. Some of our faculty said, let me first test it in-house. So they are on the internet, but not open to the other students.
Production of MOOCs. First, we have to create proposals. If there are no volunteers, then we are out of job. Okay? And then we have to filter proposals, because we receive proposals you don't want to put on Coursera or on edX. And then we have to produce. So let me go through these 4 steps. And there is another one. First, how do you convince professors to do a MOOC? At the beginning, it was easy. They did not know. Now they know. They know how much work it is, and I don't lie to them. No. In some cases, I said, you should not do a MOOC. No, you're not going to make it. So it's difficult. That's the first difficult point. I don't know how you do. What I do is that I walk on the campus. I go to the cafeteria, I have meetings, and every day I grab one guy and say, you should do a MOOC. Okay? And it doesn't work very well. Sometimes our president, we've seen our president on Monday, grab them and say, you should do a MOOC. That works much better. You have seen it with different kinds of MOOC, with this USP MOOC, high visibility MOOCs. These guys all receive millions from research, big project. They are all very busy. So these people are very difficult to get. Then we have more undergraduate MOOCs in French and so on. These people are more motivated by their will to change education. And that should be easier with them. So I don't know, in our case, we have a professor who said, never. Pierre, look at me, I will never do a MOOC. That's fine. Okay, let's have a beer, and no time to waste with them. Some of them are extremely positive, you don't need a lot of time, and then some of them need to come back to discuss the pros and cons. So we have the caution. And the question here for you and for me is, when we talk to this professor, should I be honest? Should I tell them how much? I should say, come on, come here. And so no, for some of them I say, why don't you make no MOOC? You just record a few videos that will be useful for your lecture. And I hope they will be hooked. And then after that, you say, okay, no, you're not far from a MOOC, and maybe next year they will do a MOOC. Let's try to have a more, instead of making this binary decision, I go for a MOOC and I will spoil, I will not write paper for 3 months. That's not good. So maybe a more gradual transition.
When you say video production in a MOOC, actually you have many different types of videos. At the beginning of each MOOC, you have this teaser video. So this is really the Hollywood part. You have 2 minutes, you have to convince an audience out there, it's advertised even before the course opens, and that's the video that all the people who subscribe, the real massive amount of people, will see. And there's quite a lot of pressure in doing a teaser, and usually that's the first video that the professors do. They're not very used to the video and to the camera yet, and that's a really big challenge. I think also the format is a bit different. You can be a bit pushy and marketing oriented in the teaser, whereas in other video work like the lectures, the content has primacy. It's less about having a very hip format and so on, and more about explaining stuff. We also have some demonstration type of videos. That's more a format where you record an experiment somewhere in the lab, and after that you comment it to explain what's going on. It's a bit a replacement for the lab session, if you want. And then there are other formats which are more interactive, which we did not experience yet, but which we would like to develop in the coming months, which are the interview format or dialogue format. What can you do when you have 2 people discussing together? And then also these live hangouts, which you've heard about. And so far as I can tell, on Hangouts you always have a poor image quality and so on, and we'd like to push a bit to have some very neat quality, video quality on these Hangouts. So the rationale we go about when producing MOOCs here at the Center for Digital Education is that the teachers should be the drivers. It's not like you have a teacher coming and you tell them exactly what to do, where to stand, how to smile and when not to smile and so on. It's more the idea that we start from a teaching station. It's not a TV set where you have somebody presenting the weather. We rather start from this situation here, where somebody is explaining something, and we try to enrich this teaching situation with some video equipment. And as I will show you, we use a template to help them prepare the content. We coordinate the whole production work, the video editing and all that stuff. And during the video sessions, we set up the sound, the image, the light, and then we close the door. And they record by themselves. What we try to do also is to support presence, which means we help them appear on the screen at the right moment to transmit the right message. Here you see François Galère, a professor of fluid dynamics. In his teaser, he came to the studio with a ball and a hairdryer and did this experiment. This is just fabulous. He can bring to the video one experiment and show this is fluid dynamics. It's not just talking over a bullet list. He was able to show it with very simple means. So that's also something we encourage people to do, is to bring stuff with them and show it to explain their content. So let's say one video is 15 minutes, and that in 1 week you have the equivalent of 5 videos. So it's an hour and 15 minutes of video, and that one MOOC is 7 weeks, like this. Then we end up with about 1 full week of recording in the studio, because you need about 1 hour to get 15 minutes of video right. Maybe in the beginning you need more time, and then some teachers are really trained when they arrive in the studio and they have a one-to-one efficiency. And you need more or less 4 weeks of editing of video editors working on it. So we had to produce last September 10 MOOCs in 3 months, and that's why we ended up having 300% full-time equivalent of video editors.